All right, today we're diving into the global robo-taxi race, and this is a big one. It's a high-stakes competition with billions of dollars and really the entire future of transportation on the line.
So who's actually winning this thing? Now, on the surface, that question seems pretty simple, right? It's always framed as this big showdown between the two tech superpowers, the US and China. But as we're about to see, the real story, well, it's way more complicated than that.
So, let's meet the contenders. In the American corner, you've got the heavyweight champ, Waymo. Their name is basically synonymous with self-driving cars at this point. And in the Chinese corner, you've got this powerful trio known as the Big Three: Baidu's Apollo Go, WeRide, and Pony.ai. So let's see how they really stack up.
Right off the bat, you'd probably think it's a clear win for Team USA. Waymo is the only company in the US that's running a scaled, paid, Level 4 robotaxi service. And that means fully autonomous driving, no human safety driver needed. It really seems like they are just miles ahead of everyone else. But is that the whole picture?
Well, this is where the story takes a really sharp turn. Because the moment we zoom out and look at the international stage, this whole race looks completely different.
And when I say completely different, I am not kidding. It is an absolute blowout. That initial idea that Waymo is dominating, it doesn't just crumble, it gets completely flipped on its head.
Just look at the numbers here. It's not even close. While Waymo has deployment deals in just 2 countries, Chinese firms have locked them down in over 13. 13. That is a massive, massive global footprint.
So how are they doing this? Well, it's a really smart mix of strategy and geopolitics. They're basically piggybacking on their existing digital Silk Road infrastructure. They're striking these huge deals in places like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and they're partnering up with local giants. And here's the brilliant part of their business model. A lot of the time, the host countries are the ones paying for the huge infrastructure costs. That de-risks the whole venture for the Chinese companies. It's a killer strategy.
Okay, so China has a commanding lead on the world stage, no doubt about it. But what about on their home turf? Let's pivot back now and compare how things look domestically for both countries.
So the big question is, does that international success actually translate to their deployment back home?
And yep, the data says it does. When we look at the total number of robotaxi rides, which is a great way to measure real-world scale, China is ahead again. We're talking roughly 30 million rides completed there, compared to about 20 million here in the US.
But the story gets even bigger than that. You see, China's AV industry isn't just about hailing a ride. They've got over 6,000 driverless delivery vehicles already on the road, plus autonomous street cleaners, robovans, robobuses, and they're a major player in autonomous trucking. They are weaving this technology into the fabric of their entire economy.
Now, all this widespread deployment is backed by some pretty high public acceptance. We're talking between 50 and 80%. But there's a flip side. There's also this deep economic anxiety. China has nearly twice the rate of workers per capita who are at risk of job displacement, and that is a huge concern, especially in a weak labor market.
Okay, now we get to what I think is the most fascinating part of this whole story. Because this isn't some simple race between 2 totally separate teams. Nope. It's this complex dance of what you might call co-opetition, where these huge rivals are also deeply, deeply dependent on each other.
And this quote from China Talk just says it all. The industries are too tangled for neat distinctions. The whole idea of a separate Chinese industry versus a US industry, it just completely falls apart the second you look under the hood.
So let's talk about leverage. What's China's big advantage? Well, look at this. They control about 90% of the entire global market for LiDAR, and that's the key sensor tech that lets these cars see the world in 3D. 90%. That's not just leverage, that is a massive choke point on the industry.
But the US has its own leverage, of course. It has its own ace in the hole. And that comes in the form of the advanced NVIDIA chips that basically act as the brains for these vehicles. Almost all the major Chinese AV companies, they rely on them.
And this right here perfectly illustrates that co-opetition. Think about it. Waymo's state-of-the-art American robotaxi is built on a Chinese car with a Chinese battery. And at the exact same time, Baidu's cutting-edge Chinese robotaxi is powered by an American-designed chip. They're completely intertwined. They literally can't exist without each other. And this tangled supply chain has a jaw-dropping impact on cost. While Waymo's vehicle costs upwards of $130,000, a comparable Chinese robotaxi can be built for as little as $30,000. That is a staggering, game-changing competitive advantage.
So let's just recap for a second. We've seen China leading in global deals, they're leading in domestic scale, and they control key parts of the supply chain. Which brings us to the final and, honestly, the most confusing piece of this entire puzzle.
And this is the core paradox. By almost every metric we've looked at, China appears to be ahead. So why don't their financial valuations reflect that at all? What's going on here?
Okay, first, take a look at Waymo's estimated valuation. It's over $110 billion. I mean, that is just an astronomical figure. It shows incredible investor confidence in their long-term potential.
Now let's compare that to the combined valuation of China's top AV firms. Not just one of them, all of them together. We're talking about $10 billion. That's a tenth of Waymo's. How is that even possible?
Well, the answer might actually lie in looking at a parallel industry, electric vehicles. China's state-backed model is designed to dominate sectors globally. But that doesn't mean it's designed for profitability. This system creates this brutal, hyper-competitive domestic market with insane price wars that just crush profit margins, even while production is soaring and they're conquering market share.
And that leaves us with this one ultimate question. In this incredibly high-stakes race for the future of mobility, it's not just about who's ahead in miles or rides or even technology. It's really about a fundamental clash of economic models. Can you actually win the long game by capturing the market even if you're losing money every single step of the way? That is the billion-dollar question right at the heart of the robotaxi race,